This is Olivia Osgood, and you are listening to the How to Quit Working Show. I'm glad that my mommy's an entrepreneur so that we get to spend lots of time together and she gets to homeschool me.
This is the How to Quit Working Show. Jeff Steinman believes entrepreneurship is the only true path to freedom. That's why he created the How to Quit Working Show, where you'll hear stories, insights, and inspiration from lifestyle fanatics who left their soul-sucking 9-to-5 job forever. Now, here's your host, author, entrepreneur, and ultimate lifestyle fanatic, Jeff Steinman.
Hello and welcome to the How to Quit Working Show. This is Heather Osgood, your host of the Friday episode of the How to Quit Working Show. I hope that you're having a wonderful day, and I am so glad that you're here with me because I have some really wonderful marketing things to talk about with you today. But before we get started, I want to make sure that you've had a chance to join our Facebook group. The Facebook group is probably my favorite part of the How to Quit Working community because it is a place where people just like you can go and post any questions, comments, look for inspiration. It's a chance for you to really just network with people who are in a similar situation, who are really interested in quitting their jobs, starting businesses. I'm always amazed by how many really qualified business owners. We've got a couple really great attorneys in the group that always chime in when we have questions about legal matters. We've got some sales experts in the group, and just a lot of people just like you who are really wanting inspiration to get started on your journey, to find, kind of dig deep and find the extra oomph that you really need to make your business succeed. So if you were not part of the Facebook group, I would highly recommend that you think about joining. You can go to howtoquitworking.com/circle. That will sign you up not only for the Facebook group, but also for some great video training. So make sure that you check that out. And I would recommend doing that as soon as you're finished with the podcast. Today, I'm really excited to talk to you about 4 steps to marketing and how to really make marketing easy. And it's something that's been, kind of bubbling around in me. Marketing is something that I have a lot of experience in. It's something I've done for the bulk of all of my career. I've worked in advertising and marketing, and I'm extremely passionate about it. I really love it, and I am just absolutely amazed on a regular basis about how much it is changing. When I think about where I started about 16 years ago in marketing, it might have been longer than that, I am just totally amazed by how much it's changed. My very first job, I didn't even have a computer on my desk, and that makes me feel so old. I should not say that out loud, but I didn't have a computer at my desk. I didn't have a cell phone, and really the idea of marketing online was nowhere in sight. The internet had been invented, but actually using the internet to grow your business was not something that anyone thought about. And as I look at the different businesses that I worked with over the years, and I think about people saying, what do you think about those new websites? Do you think I should have a website? It just totally cracks me up, and it makes me, just absolutely amazed by how much has changed in the business community and especially in the marketing community. It's so cool, and I'm really looking forward to the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, just to see where we are going to go with this online vehicle and really just the changes that technology is bringing to us to really be able to market in the best way possible for our customers. As I was thinking about this podcast and I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you, there's a quote that came to mind, and that quote is, "Half of the money I spend on marketing is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half." That is one of my very favorite quotes, and it is from a man named John Van Sant Wanamaker. And I had to look him up because I didn't know anything about who he was. And as I was researching him, he was just an incredible entrepreneur. And that's not a name that I think that you hear kind of thrown around a lot, like, oh yeah, Wanamaker and I were, I was reading his book, or, we all have heard of Napoleon Hill or, some of the bigger names, but he's not a name that we hear thrown around very often. At least I don't. And I feel like I read a lot of books and listen to a lot of videos and podcasts and stuff. So I really was so excited to research this guy and really find out a little bit about him. So he started his very first business in 1861, and it was a retail business. It was across the street from George Washington's house, which is kind of cool. So if you think about that, gosh, 1861, that was a really long time ago. And he was a real innovator in retail, which is so exciting to think about. Can you imagine being an innovator in retail? And can you imagine what kind of innovations maybe you're bringing about in our community, in this online space? You know, really just imagining that we're in a time of change and that we're living in history-making times, just as this gentleman was. He invented the price tag, which is so amazing. So he obviously had a retail space. It had never occurred to anyone that they should put a price tag on something, and so he decided to put price tags on things. One of the other innovations that he had was he created a return policy. So it was a fixed price for the item. You know, if you said you were going to sell that item for $5, you would sell it for $5. And if you wanted to return the item because there was an issue with it, you could return it, which wasn't something people had done. He was also the very first person to place a half-page ad in a newspaper, and he was also the first person to place a full-page ad in a newspaper. So this guy really was just an absolute innovator. He went on to open tons and tons of businesses, more than I care to list here and now for you. But he was absolutely amazing. In the world of entrepreneurs, he was a huge success. At the end of his life, he ended up with $1,408,947,000. The guy was wealthy beyond belief, and he had 10 houses all around the world. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just, we hear all of these really cool stories about entrepreneurs nowadays and what everyone is creating and all of these new kind of inventions and new ways of doing business and starting business. But he was really a grassroots, true entrepreneur. You know, he's the one that really set the tone for retail for many, many years, you know, for hundreds of years. And it's pretty crazy when you think about that. So I want you to really find inspiration with this gentleman. He really, you know, didn't start out with a whole lot, and he built a huge empire for himself. And he is credited with my favorite quote, which is, "Half of the money I spend on marketing is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half." And that is the sentiment that so many business owners have. People know that marketing works, right? When we look around at the marketing community, when we look around at the business community, people market, and there's a reason that they market, and it's because marketing is very effective. The challenge is you don't know which part of your marketing is working for you. I think back to when we opened our haircutting business, and we spent so much money on marketing. The first year, I think we spent $50,000 marketing that business. And now I cringe just a little bit, and I think, why in the world did we spend so much money on marketing? However, we spent all of that money, and most people that you talk to within the target demographic of who we were reaching, if you said, "Hey, have you heard of this place to get your hair cut?" they would say yes. And we really did end up growing a really great business. And so you could attribute it to the fact that we invested a ton in marketing. And it is challenging because oftentimes business owners want to see a direct return. They want to know that if they spend $1, that somebody's going to come in and spend $2 with them. And unfortunately, in advertising and marketing, that just isn't the way it works. So even though in the online space, we can see what is working and what is not working, trackability online is phenomenal in comparison to traditional mediums. However, it is still challenging to know if it's really working. And part of the reason it's hard to know if it's working is because you are always creating top of mind awareness and branding for your business. And that truly has absolute value, but it is very difficult to quantify that value. And that's part of the reason that it is so challenging to put together a really great marketing strategy for your business, because you really aren't always certain what is going to be best. And part of what I wanted to talk to you about today was really making the choices in your marketing. So as a business owner, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you have a 10-person staff, or whether you have a 100-person staff, whether you're doing $100,000 a year in sales, or whether you're doing $1 million a year in sales, all of these things are factors that you need to consider. What role is marketing really playing in your business, and what role could marketing be playing in your business? If you're in a place where you would really like to get more customers, the best way to get more customers is to market. People aren't going to know that you exist if you don't put out the information that you exist. And one of my favorite analogies for this is if you were throwing a party and we had a huge party, right? We decided that we wanted to rent a hall out. We wanted to hire a band. We wanted to have it catered. We hired a decorating company and a florist, and it just looked absolutely amazing. That would be an awesome party. However, if you didn't send any invitations out and nobody showed up to your party, it would be a huge dud, right? The most important part of the party is the invitation. And if you don't send that invitation out, you're not going to have a great event. And it's the same thing in your business. You could have the best business on the planet, but if you don't tell people that you exist, you might as well not be in business. That is such a crucial, critical element, and so many business owners overlook it. And if you're in business today and you're experiencing moderate success, if you were able to put together a really great marketing strategy that could take you from moderate success to phenomenal success. So really kind of think about what role is marketing playing in your business and what role could marketing be playing in your business, and really analyze if you're really giving it all of the attention that it needs. So first, when we look at marketing, we have two different segments. And depending on the type of business that you're in, you may either want to consider traditional marketing methods, or you may want to consider online marketing methods, or you may want to consider both put together. It all depends on the goals and strategies that you have for your business. If you want to work exclusively online and you're not interested in any way in serving the local community where you live, possibly traditional methods may not work for you or may not be a necessity for you. But in a lot of cases, throwing in some traditional methods to your online experience and your online marketing platforms can be a really great way to get it really going and get it really started. And for me, this concept really hit home when I was listening to a digital marketing agency owner last week. I was listening to him on a podcast, and I should have written his name down, but I didn't, and he was phenomenal. He said that most people don't realize that with Google AdWords, if they are willing to target their local market, they're going to have a lot more success with it. So if you can target your local market, you might have an opportunity of showing up much higher in rankings than if you're trying to look at marketing to your entire region, maybe your state, your country, just depending on where you're at and what you're doing. And I thought that was a really, really important perspective. A lot of times we have this online mindset mentality, and we need to get beyond that and think about maybe using more of the local resources to really capitalize on the online presence that we have created and that we are creating. So if you're thinking about traditional marketing and advertising, the key players are going to be newspapers, which, I know that there's a whole lot of talk about what newspapers are doing, and depending on your community, a newspaper can still be a very effective way to market your business. When I was in newspaper advertising, my clients got tremendous results. When I did my trade show production company, which I just sold last year, we did a lot in newspaper advertising, and it was very successful for us. So I would encourage you to consider using newspaper advertising. I do believe that it is a very effective form of advertising. When you're looking at newspaper advertising, a couple things to consider are, number one, what is the content like in that piece? So if there's a lot of national news in the newspaper that I could get, online, via MSN or any of the other Associated Press sites, then chances are I'm not going to look to the newspaper as heavily if it's full of all this information and content that I could get on the internet. But if you look at more local content, perhaps a local sporting event, maybe a big kind of local catastrophe that happened, or anything that is localized. That information is not going to be as readily available online, and so people will have a tendency to turn toward the newspaper for that content. So if you have a newspaper that really specializes in highlighting things in print that aren't online, that could be a really great place for you to advertise. So just something to consider. Next, you might consider radio advertising. And depending on where you're at, there can be some really strong radio stations that can really pull a lot for your business. Radio is a little trickier to buy, in my opinion, because you really do need to have a lot of frequency, which means your ads need to run a lot to actually have an impact. And I have found that radio advertising is very good for just creating a level of awareness about your organization. It doesn't tend, in my experience, to be very good for direct return because it is just kind of a very chaotic medium. So when I say that, there's a lot going on when you're listening to the radio. It's not like back in 1861. Nobody sits there and listens to the radio. When we're listening to the radio, we're either driving, we're cleaning, we're working, we're shopping, we're doing other things beside just sitting there. And so we have a tendency to not absorb the information at the same level. When you're reading a newspaper, you're not cleaning the house, you're not driving, you're actually looking at the newspaper. And in my opinion, that really helps with the absorption of the message. And then obviously there's television ads. And I could go on and on about how to buy TV ads, and I'm not going to do this in the podcast today, but really, there are some great vehicles, especially cable TV tends to be a very inexpensive way to buy TV ads. So if you're thinking that's something that could really help your business grow, that's certainly a consideration. And then I also just want to throw in there the idea of public relations. So really, that is something that is a very underserved marketing vehicle. And I really believe that you have the opportunity to get a lot by putting effort into public relations. And the best way to do this is to really think about writing a press release, sending it to local media outlets, and following up with them with the hope that they will feature your business in something that they produce. So those can all be really great outlets, and those are very traditional outlets for you to market your business. Next, when we're thinking about moving online, there are certainly tons and tons of tactics that you could approach online. The first and foremost is really just Google AdWords. It's something that, is very commonly used, but it's also extremely effective. And Google continues to be the #1 search engine. And the reality is that if you're buying ads from Google, they're most likely going to bump you up in the ratings. I don't really care what anybody says. When you're giving Google money, they're going to get you higher. And Google AdWords and just Google Ads period can be a really great way to really get your site the attention that it needs. The other thing to remember is that all of those tools that you can use through Google are going to help your local community find and search you online, because we're all doing it. Whether we're looking for something local or whether we're looking for something international, we're using Google to find the resources that we want and need, and the places and the outlets where we really want to purchase a product. So make sure that your presence is really strong in that search engine optimization and really with Google. So think about that. Next, you obviously could look at ads on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram. The ads kind of go on and on. I don't believe you can get ads on Pinterest just yet, but I have heard that is on the horizon if it isn't here already. So there are lots and lots of outlets where you can purchase ads for your business. And I have heard a variety of different success stories with these different types of ads. I personally have purchased Facebook ads in the past with moderate success. I wouldn't say I've had a whole lot of success. I do think that there's some validity in really, pumping your post up. So I know I've got the wrong word, but when you are able to, really buy that kind of accelerant through Facebook that gets your post more exposure, I do think that is an opportunity for you. And all of them are opportunities. It just depends on which one you would like to choose. And then really the next big kind of elephant in the room almost is all of these social platforms and what you should do with them, how you should manage them. And they are questions that I get from my clients every single day. What social media sites should I be on? How should I, set up my profiles? How often should I post? What should I post? And so obviously we're looking at, several of the big players. Facebook, is here and huge. Instagram is really gaining traction and really has a lot of popularity. Twitter is a beast all unto its own, and the longer I use it, the more I enjoy it. So, depending on where you're at with Twitter, Pinterest is wonderful and makes me an obsessive buyer and creator of items. Boy, I could spend hours on Pinterest, and when I'm done, I will feel like the most inadequate mother and business owner on the planet, because it is full of just, the most fairyland creations on the planet. But it is a whole lot of fun to be on Pinterest. There are so many fun things. So it's a great place to be. And then kind of the two bigger new streams that have come onto the forefront are Periscope and Blab. So those can be two outlets. If you haven't heard of either of them, I would encourage you to go on and check them out. So you have all of these choices, right? And it is so difficult at the end of the day to say really what is going to be best for you and how are you going to really, really market your business. So the 4 tips I have for you are: number 1, really consider what is going to fit your budget and what is going to give you a proven return. And I want you to really think about your budget in a couple of different ways. First, you can think of your budget as dollars that you have set aside to spend on marketing. If you're a startup, chances are you probably don't have a very large marketing budget. I do want to encourage you to think about trying to allocate funds into marketing as you're starting up. Or if you're a business right now where you're really not spending very much on marketing, look at industry standards. And typically industry standards are going to be somewhere between 5, 10, maybe even 15% of your gross sales should be spent on marketing. And when I say should, really when you look at reinvesting that much, it's going to help your business grow. So by not investing the correct percentage for your industry, you're not allowing yourself to accelerate or grow at the level that you could be capable if you were investing your marketing dollars wisely in appropriate mediums that are going to have a return. So really make sure that you have a budget set aside and then make sure that you're using it appropriately. Now, obviously, that's a dollar budget, right? So that's something to consider. But on the flip side, you're going to have a time budget. And one of the things that just kills me is when people don't value their time. So one of my very favorite ways of looking at time is the HGTV. I love HGTV and I love all the DIY shows. I'm just your traditional woman. I could sit there and just watch it for entertainment. My husband thinks I'm absolutely insane. But what always cracks me up is when they do these huge facelifts to these houses and they say, we did this whole project for only $15,000. And I just crack up because the reality is that they had a team of like 50 people working on this $15,000 project. And those people, if you paid them all what you were worth, that renovation project would have cost them around $100,000, because really all of that time and those expertise, those are really, really important. You're a business owner and your time and your expertise have a value. And if you are spending hours and hours on social platforms, is that really free marketing? It's not free. It's your time and it's your life energy that you're putting into these outlets. So you have to really, really think, is this what you want to do? Obviously, I didn't even touch on the whole, podcast opportunity, blogs. The list goes on and on. You could spend hours online marketing yourself. So you need to make sure that the investment you make is going to give you the return that you want. And as you experience these different mediums, if it's giving you a return, continue to invest or maybe increase your investment, whether that's monetary or whether that's time. And as you progress, if it's not giving you a return, don't increase your investment. Maybe decrease it, but be very, very aware of where your returns are coming from. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is really look at what is going to fit your audience. That's something that I hear all the time is people really want to use these platforms that are not hitting their target market. So yes, Facebook has one of every demographic on it. Of course, there are lots and lots of people on Facebook, and there are lots and lots and lots of people on these social platforms too. But is your demographic really there in a big, strong way? And if that demographic isn't there, don't waste your time. It's just not worth the effort that you're putting out. So, and that could be anything, right? Like, I kind of crack up because we have a local community kind of arts and entertainment newspaper. And as I was growing up in this community, it was always the college's newspaper, right? The college didn't own it or produce it, but it was full of information that college students would be interested in. It had all the the concerts at the local bars and all of the, things that were going on that the college students would want to go to. And a couple of years ago, I was sitting down with one of my reps, and it might have been more like 5 years ago. And I said, I don't know if I really want to advertise there because I'm trying to target this 35 plus demo. And, I really think that the college students are the ones that read that newspaper. And he looked at me and he said, Heather, do you really think college students are reading the newspaper? When is the last time you saw a college student reading a newspaper? And it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, he's totally right. It doesn't matter if my perception is the college students are reading it. College students are not reading newspapers right now. And he said, really, if you look at it, it's a 35 plus demo. And I realized that he was totally correct. So look at the different mediums that you have and really see, are they actually hitting the demographic that you need it to hit? And if they are, wonderful. And if they aren't, there's no use in you being there unless you just really enjoy that medium in particular. So that brings me to my next point, which is point number 3, and that is find a medium that you love. Find something that you are super, super passionate about. And you can take that from the traditional mediums. You could take that to the online mediums. And so couple examples I have for you. There's a local furniture store company that I used to sell newspaper ads to. And he would buy newspaper ads because he felt like he should. And he was a pretty old school kind of traditional type business owner. But what he really loved is he really loved his TV ads. And the reason that he loved his TV ads was because he could have himself featured in an ad. And when he featured himself in an ad, he would have all of his friends and relatives come up and say, I saw you on TV, and that made him feel very valued as a business owner. It may not have increased his bottom line at all, but it made him feel good about how he was spending his marketing dollars. Another story I have is a local business owner. He was in faucets and hardware, and believe it or not, he and his daughter for years would get on the radio and they would record ads. And I mean, I want to say probably at least 12 years, the two of them would get on. And it was kind of fun to listen to because you could hear the ads of the little girl when she was, little. And then when she went off to college, they were still recording ads. And it was something that he loved to do. He got a ton of satisfaction out of it. And I'm sure that he also got a return on his investment. So those are some traditional tactics, and that's really a good example, or those are good examples of outlets that people loved and really what it did for them. And you can take all of those very same scenarios and look at online medias, our mediums. I talk to people who hate to write, and I say, you should start a blog. That would be a great thing for your website. And you can just see the look on their face. They think I'm insane. They're not writers. They hate to write. It is like drawing blood for them, Now, there are other people who could sit down at a computer and write for hours, and information just comes streaming out, and they really, really enjoy it. It's the same thing with creating videos or podcasts. If it's something that you love to do and it makes you feel on fire, you're going to do a better job with that. And that is really going to help you extend the marketing message that you're looking to extend. It's going to help you really get the message out about who you are and the uniqueness that you bring to the table. And it's the exact same thing with all of these social platforms, right? I talk to people who hate Facebook, and I talk to people who love Facebook. I talk to people who are obsessed with Instagram, and I talk to other people who aren't. I really enjoyed a great interview the other day with the owner of Design Sponge. Design Sponge is a very long-lasting, I think she's like 10-year-old blog, gorgeous blog. And she said that she absolutely loved Instagram. Like, it was just the place where she really fit, what it really resonated with her. And after the interview, I went on and I followed her on Instagram, and I can tell you what, you can see that it works for her. Her posts are absolutely amazing. And I don't know whether she takes all these pictures, but really when you look through all the things she's posted, it looks like she does, because there's so many similarities in her images. And it totally expresses who she is. It brings her essence to the table, and it is so wonderful to see, because you can see her really living in this experience and in this moment. Now, she talked about Pinterest and said that for whatever reason, when Pinterest came out, she decided that she didn't want to be part of it. And she said that she felt like that was a big mistake that she had made, because Pinterest obviously ended up becoming a huge outlet, and she wished that she had spent more energy focusing on Pinterest. And I thought that that was really, an interesting point that she made. And she did such an awesome job on Instagram. I haven't checked out her Pinterest, but I'm sure she does just as great a job on Pinterest. But those were things that really, really resonated with her. She didn't talk about Twitter. She didn't talk about Facebook, because I'm guessing those aren't the mediums that really make her feel alive. And that is so important for you to look at as well. You want to look at if your audience is there, but next you really want to look at, is it a medium that really resonates with you? Is it something that excites you and makes you feel alive? Is it something that you look forward to doing, or you get excited because you find something and you think, oh, I could post this on my Facebook account, or I could talk about this on Twitter? Those are the types of things that you really want to look at embracing. I have gotten really into periscoping lately. If you're interested in following me, I am at HM Osgood, and I would love to see you there. And I love Periscope. I love it. I like everything about it. It's super fun to me. It's really cool because you can, at the end of it, you can see your retention. So how long people stayed listening to you. Obviously, it shows you the length of your Periscope and how many people were at your Periscope. There's so much live feedback. So if you've not been on Periscope before, you can download the app. It's designed specifically for your smartphone, so you could use that on Android or iOS. And it's cool because you are able to watch these live streaming videos from around the world, and there's some really cool ones. There's some pretty crappy ones too, so you have to be a little selective. But what's really neat about it is that you can watch this person and then you can comment. So you're able to ask them questions. And then you also, by tapping your screen, are able to give them hearts. And hearts is kind of like your way of saying you're doing a great job and I really appreciate the content. And so it's really cool because it feels live, and it is live. And it feels like you're talking with all these people, but yet there's some distance because you can't hear them. You can just see what they're typing. And for me, I've been able to set up a system where every morning between 7:15 and 7:30, I am on Periscope, and I've developed a little following of people who know that I'm going to be there. And it's just been a whole lot of fun for me. And I talk about where I live. I am able to go to the beach and show images of the beach. I've shown images of my dog in my videos. I think I've even shown some of my kids. But anyways, it feels very authentic and very real to who I am. And it resonates with me. It doesn't feel like a chore to me. I don't have to think like, oh, what am I going to talk about, or how am I going to do it? Like, maybe some of the other mediums. It feels very effortless to me. And that's the key. It resonates with me and who I am. And I'm really hoping that it's something that is going to pay off for me as being a great marketing tool. I want you to examine all of the different social medias and think about the ones that really resonate with you. I've also heard the advice given many times by many different people that it is better for you to be very strong at just a couple of the social platforms than to be diluted and be on all of them. And I do totally agree with that. If you're able to pick a platform that is really going to be effective and really work for you, if it really resonates with you and you put your full effort, you're going to get a better return. The other platform that I totally forgot to mention was LinkedIn. There is, some phenomenal things that can happen with LinkedIn as well. So really just think about, is your audience there and is it something that you really love to do? My fourth suggestion to you is that if you have the resources, it can be extremely helpful to hire a professional to do your marketing for you. Marketing is one of those elements in business where people have such a difficult time handing the task off, and more often than not, it would be done much better if it were done by a professional, someone who understood marketing well, who really approached marketing with a very systematic plan of getting return for you, their client. And it could take a huge weight off of who you are. Now, when you're looking at the social platforms, often, you really still need a level of engagement, but your business can have its own page and it can have its own existence that is separate from you, that somebody else outside of you could very easily run. And oftentimes the investment to hire someone isn't as great as you might think it would be, and it could just have a huge return for you because there is someone, again, who is an expert, who understands the ins and outs of marketing, who is going to maybe point out opportunities that you're missing and help you in the process, allowing you to really shine at what you're great at. And if you feel a lot of resistance to marketing, if it's not something that you want to do, think about hiring someone who specializes in helping your industry, professionals within your industry really grow, because most firms are going to specialize in certain industries. And so, think about that when you're hiring someone, but it really could be a great way to accelerate your marketing. I hope that this has been helpful for you, and I hope that if you are struggling with your marketing, if you're not sure what to do for your marketing, if you don't have a marketing budget or you don't have a marketing plan, please make sure that you get something started for your business. It can make the huge difference from you, really the difference between you being very successful in business and maybe not so successful. I would love to talk to you further about marketing. If you have any questions about marketing, please feel free to email me. You can reach me at heather@howtoquitworking.com. If you are thinking, gosh, Heather, marketing is the least of my worries right now. I have bigger fish to fry. I have bigger concerns, or I'm just having a really hard time trying to figure out how to incorporate all of these things into one package and make it a success, make it a strong company that's going to return a profit to me. I would love to speak to you. I can be reached again at heather@howtoquitworking.com or howtoquitworking.com/coaching. And I would love to talk to you about really what we can create through individualized coaching for you. So have a terrific day, and I really just encourage you to be the best that you can be in your business, because I know that you have what it takes to succeed. I will talk to you next Friday.
Thanks for joining us on the How to Quit Working show. Tune in next time when we'll talk to another amazing person just like you, who is now living the ultimate life of freedom and doing it on their terms. If you want to learn how to quit working and get these episodes delivered directly to you, visit howtoquitworkingshow.com.